For anyone who is wondering if you should be a CPA or not, or for anyone who is considering to be a CPA, this video is perfect for you because I am interviewing CPAs who have a lot of experience in this industry to share their CPA career paths. After listening to their stories, you may think that this is the life I want, or you may think that this is not the life I want at all. And either way is fine, as long as you do what you love and you love what you do. Good luck! Our guest today is Mark Fowler, a CEO and also board of director. He has about 51 years of experience in this industry, so he has a lot to share with us today. He has more than 20 articles published on California CPA magazine. He taught a lot of classes about accounting, especially he is an author of multi-award winning book named Revolutionary Conversations, the tools you need for the success you want. One more thing, he also has a podcast named Always Creating Value. Let's welcome our first guest, Mark Fowler.
Well, I am a CPA in inactive status, which means I don't practice the profession of public accounting anymore, though I have. Historically, I started out in a small, medium-sized firm in Hartford, Connecticut, and ended up exploring computer sciences at Travelers Insurance Company, where we were the head of, I guess it was new. I was a staff individual working in computers and looking at software, evaluating software, taking a look at operations. It was a great opportunity to learn the computer field very early in my career. And then I moved to California and became part of a national CPA firm. I was a senior manager for the second-tier national firm. Then I became, even though I was moving away from public accounting per se as my own practice, I was moving into more and more consulting, and I became part of a national association of 140 CPAs firms, and we were their consulting arm. And we had 4 offices. One was in Los Angeles, which I was a manager of, and it was, it was very exciting. I've never, as far as the way I get from traditional accounting, the closer and closer I've gotten to, the profession of accounting. And I became more involved with California Society of CPAs, and I've been in leadership for more than 35 years, board memberships, trustee. I'm the local LA map chair, sit on the state map committee, and I think everything I've been except the chair of a chapter. So, but it's been fun. I've always enjoyed the people I've met and allowed to enjoy them working together on conferences and committees and whatever. And then I spun off my practice from the consulting in CPAs with their clients, and I took it to a merger acquisition turnaround company, MCO Financial Limited. It was a merchant banking firm. And for many, many, many years, I worked on senior management projects, mergers and acquisitions, crisis management, debt restructure, corporate valuations. And along the way, I was continuing to teach for CalCPA. I've taught 17 courses for CalCPA.
Why did you choose the CPA accounting career?
I started out because my father wanted to be in engineering, and that wasn't me. So anyway, I ended up, the guidance counselor said, after testing me, he said, accounting, dean's list, okay. So that was a saving grace of that guidance counselor.
What are some benefits of working in public accounting?
I keep mentioning the CPA world because even though I was drifting into other things, the things I learned and even in the beginning of public accounting and my career in public accounting was learning the basics, and those basics are enormously beneficial. Everything from learning how to do an audit, learning how to ask questions about things, and learning how systems work and how people work, and doing strategic planning with them, whether even if it was just tax planning. There is just so many things that public accounting gifts us. I was also lucky when I was in public accounting to have a lot of responsibility. Back in those days, when you got out of college, you went to visit a client. It was not something you waited for. You're a CPA, or you're going to be a CPA. Well, roll up your sleeves and go out there and meet the clients. So that was a real benefit to me to be able to do that.
What do you think are the best skills that new CPAs should have?
Along the way, I decided, since we were doing a tremendous amount of turnaround work, I've turned around over 100 companies. Not just me, many of those were teams. You don't take on a very large company by yourself. It's not something to do. But I realized that communication was an essential ingredient, and not that I was a bad communicator. I learned, my parents were always talking, and we're always talking about stuff. I was an only child, so they talked to me, so I talked to them. So it wasn't like I was shy, but there's a lot more to just talking. Communication requires a good skill of interaction and listening and paying attention to what's really going on. And so I started taking classes at UCLA, and I started in just general communication. And then I attended a class with a lady who was to become my partner for 27 years, Gloria Axelrod. Gloria was quite the lady. She was a master teacher at UCLA, and I got a great opportunity to not only work with her in the class, but then we started to work together. We did classes together. And along the way, I took a lot of what I was learning, but also what I was learning from the students, and I identified 5 characteristics of better communications, where we watched the role plays, and it was very clear that they were coming up with things or had habits that were inherent. And so that's how we developed as you can see behind me, the Revolutionary Conversations, the tools you need for the success you want. And I crafted a set of tools called the Share Tools, and they've been around for over 25 years, and we now have a multi-award-winning book on it, and it's been taught at UCLA Extension and Calcpa and Calcpa Education Foundation. And I wouldn't say that was a jettison up, but it made my career a lot easier to do. And so working in the turnaround business and the funding business and all these other things, being able to talk to new people was an essential ingredient. And the Share Tools work. Not trying to brag about it or whatever, but they do work. And well, in today's day and age, as AI starts to sneak in, there becomes a much and more enhanced need to interface with the computer, because the computer is interfacing with you. And so, I don't know too much about what the extra 30 hours are, and that I don't know what the choices that you might have. But if you really want to help companies, you got to be able to see things from the multi-dimensions that they have. And they are multi-dimensional. It's all about people, it's all about systems, it's all about customers, it's all about vendors, it's all about the dynamics that's going on. And numbers are important, but the dynamics, what is actually going on, and especially if you're dealing with family businesses, because they have a spin is not the right word, but they have an extra gene in there that they have to deal with family members, and it adds a different twist. It's understanding people and understanding and being able to have the right information, have better information, and be able to articulate and integrate that with people. So I would suggest 2 areas, if that's available, and that's communication, interpersonal communication, not just presentation, but being able to sit down with somebody and connect with them in a way that this conversation is going to be meaningful. And then the computers, because so much of that technology, I wouldn't say it's mysterious, but you really have to know what kind of questions to ask. What does this report mean? this is the kind of information I think I need. Let's talk about what's the most effective way to present the information I need. We have kind of a rule of thumb when we're running companies and turning them around, and that is there's only 3 to 5 reports that you really need. And that's more from an operational perspective. And I'm not talking about big reports like this. I'm talking about, reports that you can take action on. And you got to help the client figure that out. So, and the profession has gotten quite departmentalized. If you're in the tax department, oftentimes you're not talking about operational stuff. And in the older days, we were more general. We had to know more. And since I like the re-engineering part and I like the interaction with the people, and if you as a CPA want to have more of that, then you really do need the computers and the communication. Well, Excel is a communications platform because, if you create a report, you need to be able to interface with them and how that works. And when you're putting together your Excel, it needs to be simplified in a way that people aren't having to dig through what you're doing. It's been a long time since I took a Excel course. But whatever you prepare or whatever you're analyzing has to be designed in a way that it's meaningful and it's communicatable. Because you can't just drop something on somebody's desk and say, this is, read it. Well, clients are not that. They're doing something else that they know better than you do. So you've got to be able to bridge that gap, and Excel is a tool for communicating. So they go hand in hand. Also, explaining it sometimes, like you were talking about my resume not long ago, and a couple of things came up, and I realized that we needed to move something around. So when you're teaching somebody something, you're actually learning more than they are. So the opportunity to describe and talk about your Excel spreadsheet or whatever gives not only them the information, enhances their level of trust with you, but allows you to learn what you're actually talking about. My partner Gloria used to say, how do I know what I mean until I hear what I say? It goes on in our head, but if you don't articulate it, and then when you articulate it, it gives you the opportunity to say, well, wow, that's what I'm really thinking about. So,
after you graduate, why did you choose to work at a small CPA firm instead of a larger CPA firm?
Well, in accounting, there's a very straight path. You're going to go to a national firm, and it didn't seem like the right thing for me. I had the opportunity as a teenager and then into college to work for grocery stores, and I ended up becoming an assistant manager, and even when I was in college, I was working, many hours working. So I had a good sense of business, and I wanted to work for a smaller firm where I felt I would have more of my skills, my interpersonal skills, or my knowledge of business. So, and it was I wouldn't say it was a fluke, but it was a blessing. One of my friends, her girlfriend, father ran a CPA firm, and they suggested that I go visit him. And that was the only interview I had. It was perfect. It was a wonderful firm, very entrepreneurial, and it gave me, the blessing I needed, which was to have more freedom and more involvement with clients, because I was already doing it. I'd already been talking to customers and vendors and everybody. It was just something that I wasn't going to be easy for me to slot myself into a larger firm.
What are some benefits of working at a small CPA firm?
Well, as I mentioned, I was lucky because they were entrepreneurial, and within the first year, we had a client going south. They were going under, and it was a large real estate company, and I got the opportunity to work with a senior manager, partner type of person, and I was there for a whole year working on turning that company around. And of course, I wasn't doing, and I was the low person on the totem pole on the org chart. Being the low man on the organization chart, low person on the org chart. I got to see a lot more because I wasn't doing things from the top. I was doing things from the bottom up, and all the reports, every meeting that we went to, I was there taking notes, making reports. So it was clearly was accounting based, but all the other things that go along with that. And I got bit. That was when I decided that I liked doing that very much. And it also made a big difference with my clients' situations too, because I had more to talk about. I had more things to integrate with them because of the things that we had done there. And that was probably that was one of the biggest shifts. And it was a serendipitous, it was just out of nowhere. I had never thought that's what I wanted to do, but my career showed that I could do it. And
why did you decide to start your own practice?
I was living in Connecticut, and I felt that I wanted to be in California for whatever reason. And so it's one of the reasons why I went to Travelers Insurance, because of the computers. I wanted to add another technology to my skill base. And luckily I found somebody in the firm that, that allowed me to ratchet me up a bit and into consulting, even though I'd been doing indirect consulting. The actual client work that I had done made it easier for me to go to the next level, which was end up, pretty much running that department with a partner in consulting. And then I moved to my own practice, and about 15 years ago, moved to my own practice, basically an extension of my work in the merchant banking firm. I work a lot more with CPAs. I've worked with over 200 firms over the years, starting back in, when I first went to work for Management Design Associates. And I've done a lot of merger acquisition, a lot of succession planning, spent a lot of time with Calcpa on the succession planning conferences, workshops, and still do. Succession planning it doesn't matter whether it's for CPAs or for regular clients, it's the same thing. People need to be constantly transitioning their work, and also people need to transition as they get older and they want to retire. So it's been a wonderful career, and it's not something I want to stop. I think you've taken a look at our Always Creating Value podcast, where we're looking at people that I've known or people I want to know about how they've, over their lifetime, how they've created value and where does that come from. And there's an emphasis on the podcast about that it's an inherent working thing. It's always going on. A lot of people only click in that creating value thing when things are a problem, but many of your problems come from the fact that you haven't been creating value. You haven't been connecting with your people. You haven't been connecting with yourself sometimes. So, and I'm going to be focused more on boards. I've always been on boards for the clients that I've run over the years.
Why did you choose to work in consulting business?
Well, first of all, I was interested in computers, and I wanted additional technology. I knew that computers were going to be, and as we see today, I don't want to say I was prophetic, but it's it's everywhere, and I felt it was important to understand. And along the way, in consulting projects along the way, some are in the 70 systems arena. I've been involved in the recasting or designing of business systems, and that time at Travelers gave me, we were dealing with large software and large things, and they had a large technology, big computers. And it gave me an opportunity to see and learn the super basics of how systems were being developed. And I know I took a chance. And it's interesting, when I came to California, I interviewed a lot, but I wasn't getting the jobs because they scratched their head. They didn't know what to do with me about the consulting. I mean, the computers. What are you talking about? Again, this is a long time ago. But I was lucky. I found a guy a partner in a firm who was the same as me. And again, it was sort of serendipitous. And it's paid off because both from an accounting perspective and a systems perspective, you have a better view of what's actually going on in the business. And then if you throw in communications and pay attention to the dynamics of the people around you, I don't want to say it gives you an edge up, but it gives you an edge in achieving the things. When I was in public accounting, I used to get surprised by the fact that many clients didn't understand financial statements. And so we had to, educate them. And then when you're in crisis situations or other businesses, people often don't understand reports. They don't. So many times they're using a report is in a way that wasn't meant for that report. And that report didn't add the value it needed to add. So in helping companies grow and turn around and, be better in what they're trying to do, helping them understand the technology they have and helping them understand how to read that information or help create reports that really give them is valuable. It's like having a navigational tool that you don't know how to use. It's sort of like, on a boat, you've got navigational tools, compasses, etc. And you've got to be able to use them in the most appropriate way. And a lot of reporting didn't. And it was good for me to have that background.
Why did you decide to start your own practice?
The national firm at that time didn't want to expand the consulting part. And so I had to make a decision that I needed to do it on my own, and I started to. And then I went to work for Management Design Associates, and that was another blessing, another serendipitous moment. At some point in time, as you're adding these things to your career, you're adding these things to your life experience. And this is one of the great things about public accounting is that you really don't have to leave if you want to explore other things, especially if the organization you work for allows you to explore these things. In this particular case, I didn't, and it was scary, but I had to do it. I mean, what am I going to do? Do something I'm not comfortable with, or go back to doing something that I had done, 8 years ago that I had learned what I needed to learn and needed to move on.
What are some challenges of starting your own practice?
You mean the top 20 challenges that I had to have? Yeah, everything's a challenge. You got to go get a corporate name. You got to get your computers together. You got to get the whole process is a challenge. And probably the biggest challenge is dealing with the fear and the anticipation and the failure. And those are the kinds of things. Luckily, I had a lot of friends. Luckily, I had several friends who were entrepreneurs and we could huddle together. But yeah, I think it's just the process change. It's like moving into a new house, okay? You bought it, you love it, then you find the 5,000 things you need to change about it, So, and 3 years later, you say, this is the way we like it. And that's, starting a new business is kind of like that. Even though I was doing many of the same things I had to do, so.
Could you provide more details about your current practice?
Well, I think as I mentioned, it's mostly focused in many of the things I did in the merchant banking firm, except has been historically more focused on CPAs. The last 10 years in the CPA world in particular has been focused on succession. So I've been doing a great deal of succession and merger and acquisition work, transition work, helping companies get ready for mergers, or decide to merge other firms into their practice. I've done quite a bit of that as well. My COVID is, I've got about 3 things going on in my head at the moment, but COVID's been a benefit for me because it's forced me to slow down. And I've been wanting to make a shift for a long time, back to more of the merchant banking stuff and more of the working with the clients of CPAs, we used to get a lot of business from banks as well. And I wanted to focus on what I've been teaching for decades, and that's the creating value process. And that's why the podcast is about always creating value. And I wanted to step into more of the board, a more formal board thing, as opposed to coming and running companies and being on the board. And that takes a lot of work, everything from re-articulating the kinds of things I do, and, having interviews with you, having an interview with you, getting more out of what is more of a core technology for me, which is taking companies from where they are